somehow we got married, and we were married almost 40 years. So we were together 42, married 40 of them, and created this, what to me is unbelievable family. It's a blended family like none I've ever seen. And I would like, if all of you who are like daughters and sons and grandsons and granddaughters, if you could just raise your hands so everybody get an idea of how many of you we have. Wow. That's it. Oh my goodness. These are my guys and girls. Yes. Because Jim believed in us and he believed in me, I ended up in college after not being a flamethrower in high school. And with my own business that he then joined after leaving city government. And it all happened just because he believed in us. He was a dreamer. He was someone who could see things that were going to happen and make them happen. I was always more the, are you sure we can do this? Are you positive that's good? So I would, between us, we kind of hit at the right level where he would have like taken us off a cliff, and I would at least not keep us down in the ditch, right? However, he was supposed to have the real job, and instead he quit and joined my company. That wasn't the plan. The plan was I would have the fun job, and he would have the real job that had benefits, insurance, a steady paycheck, that kind of thing. And no, he quit. And joined me. And so we did that for 30 some years together. So we were together 24/7 for 35 of the 42 years that we had together. That meant working together every single day, working projects together every day, and working projects like this all the time. It's what Jim always said was, he said, yeah, you love your partner. He said, but you better like them. He said, you just better like them, because if you don't like them, you wouldn't be able to do this. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about who Jim was. He was an overachiever. Everybody agree? and he just couldn't stand it. Well, it started out as an Eagle Scout. He was almost a SEAL when he was in the service. He flunked out, or he wouldn't like that term. Whatever the right term is for Jack, when you don't quite make it. In the deep, I think the deep sea part of it was his issue with his ears or something. So he didn't quite make it to what was then the precursor to the SEALs, Navy SEALs. And he was a city manager, a California city manager, a very successful one. And he ended up on the driver's hall at Laguna Seca with a big poster in his car, which I think was his probably overall biggest achievement that he liked. It was a little bit funny because we pulled into Laguna Seca to race, and one of his friends came up and said, hey, he said, well, I'd like to know who you know. Jim goes, wait, I don't understand what you mean. He said, well, your picture. And Jim goes, well, everybody's picture is in the big program you get for Laguna Seca, right? He goes, no, the driver's lounge. And we looked at each other and went, oh my God. So we ran down to the driver's lounge, and here was this, how big was that poster, Jack?
It was huge. About 10 by 6.
10 by 6, and here's Jim in his car on the driver's lounge at Laguna Seca. We're not totally sure they were trying to get him because there was another car in there, but we choose to believe it was him. We choose to believe it was him. It was the cutest. It was the cutest car. It was not the fastest car, but it was definitely the cutest car, right? Yeah. Jack was our crew chief. Morningside High School crew chief. He had heart surgery at 70, open you up, split you up, do whatever they do, put you together with twisty ties and glue you shut, right? That kind. And his only question for the doctor was, how soon can I race? And he was sitting here, I'm standing back here, the doctor's over there, and I'm going like this, behind him like. And the doctor looked up, he goes, 3 months. 3 months later, he passed his racing physical. Yes, Mr. Overachiever again, right? And he raced after that a number of times. He had kidneys totally shut down on him a couple of years ago. And they said, well, if you were young, some of us have heard that, like at your age, that comment that attaches to some of us around now. At your age, your kidneys will not recover from this. So you have to go under dialysis, which he did. and you will be on dialysis the rest of your life. And it was, Denny, because we were talking to you at the time, it was like, what, a month later, his kidneys totally recovered, and he's off and running again. So when he was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis a year ago last December, we just assumed he would do it again. You know, I mean, come on, this guy is like, you know, kryptonite or something. I don't know what you would call it. But we figured he was given 3 to 5 years, which is a very odd feeling to sit there and suddenly someone gives you a shelf life. We went in for antibiotics, and he comes out with a shelf life. And we looked at each other, and Jim looked at me, and he said, 7 years. He goes, I'm going to do 7. He goes, and then I won't care. And I went, okay, we'll do 7. So in our typical fashion, we just went, okay, here we go. You know, we're going to do 7. And unfortunately, he lasted 4 months. So to say we were surprised, and although you guys were surprised, I know, you know, we were all surprised. We didn't expect that to happen. He was building a car with Tim. Where's Tim? Building a car with Timmy, and they were taking the, I got in such trouble. The big oxygen tanks that are supposed to be for emergencies only, we moved to Tim's garage so that Jim could go up there and work on the car. And he would take his little bottles, and then he would fill it from the big bottle, and then we had it. Then I found out they were throwing it in the back of the truck so that they could go shopping. And running around buying car parts, right? Car parts, stuff like that. So what transpired was that I had to call to have it refilled. And they said, what was the emergency? That you used the big tank. And I went, we're building a car. You know? And they went, oh, you can't do that. And I went, well, we already did. And so the guy took pity on us, and he gave us an extra concentrator that built, and he stuck it up in Tim's garage so that Jim could have a concentrator up there and one down there, and then we could officially keep our emergency thing. Somehow or other, you know, it always worked out, and we just thought that was the way it's going to be. Jim loved his family and friends and pets. This was his total focus, was family and friends. He loved country music. He loved Mexican food. He loved historical novels, and he loved me. He also loved cars, as we all know. And he had a brain that remembered everything. Unbelievable brain that remembered everything. So between Jim, who remembered everything, and Susie, for 77 years, who remembers everything, I don't have to remember anything. I had it knocked. All I had to do was say, hey, did you do it? Okay, fine, you know, away we'd go. This man could fix the car. I'm going to read this because I had to make this list and I couldn't believe what I was coming up with. He could fix a car, and then he'd create stained glass. He'd build a car, which he did from scratch, the TC. And when he was invited to the Historics, which is unbelievable to get an invitation to the Historics, and he did, and went back all the years until they started flipping them in the corkscrew. He decided, done with this. He could ladder trees on a ranch. He designed 2 houses, one in Idaho, a ranch in Idaho, and then he and Tim and Fran and I put this one together. And then he turned around and convert my knitting patterns from, because I don't like charts. I like the letters. I don't do all the charts. He would take my charts and turn them into letter patterns for me so that I could knit. He didn't knit. I tried to get him to pick up needles, and no, not doing it. But what was so annoying is, and Sheila's, where's Sheila? Yeah, she's witness to that. I would make a mistake. I'd be getting mad, which he would say, I thought this was supposed to be fun. and I'd tell him, I don't know. And he goes, well, I know. And he would tell me what the pattern said that he had written 2 months before that I didn't remember. And he was always right. It was so annoying. He knew it, you know. He didn't knit, but you'd never know what to talk to him. He'd go buy yarn with me. I mean, it's the guy who builds cars and then goes and buys yarn, right?
I drive 25 miles to pick up yarn that you dropped out of the truck.
Oh yeah, I dropped a ball of yarn out of the truck. We had to pack again. One of them I left on the on-ramp. Oops. There was a trail of my yarn on the on-ramp going up to the... I need that. I don't have enough of it. It's alpaca. I've got to go back, you know. He made a crib. and 4 bassinets for all these guys, for every family, out of wood, from scratch. He could do anything, and he did it all very well. He even cured prostitution in Stanton, which I think is something that everybody. Yeah, I won't tell you exactly how he did it, but it kind of squeezed it toward Anaheim, and it was no longer in Stanton, so he was Mr. City Manager. He simply was the best. And our family now has this giant hole where it used to be. I would love for all of you to share any stories you might have about Jim. There's a million of them. We know he had a horrible tool fetish, which I found out even more about after he died. And he snored. Those are about the 2 things I could think of that were a little hard. Everything else about the guy was perfect. I want to especially thank, again, this fantastic family I have and friends, and who have been here every time something's happened to us. When something happened to Jim with his heart, there they are. There's Sheila and Lisa and Amber, and they're up there taking weeks to basically take care of me because I was freaking out. And Jim did much better, I think, than maybe I did. And his kidney, everybody's volunteering, you know. Everything happened. The minute something happens, the whole family is suddenly on the phone, and what can I do to help? And that's kids and grandkids, all of you guys. And it happens every single time, and they always come through. I threw myself on the floor out there on the ground and broke my finger. And I had all these kids ready to help me, and grandkids ready to help me. And they saved me from going into rehab, because the hospital wanted to send me immediately to a COVID rehab, you know, up the street. And I said I wouldn't go. And I had a little about a 1-day fight with the doctor at the hospital. And they called Frontine, and they called Amber individually. And both of them said, oh, she's not going. And why she's not going? They said, you don't know her, and you don't know us. And their theory was good. It was, you take somebody of this age, and something like this happens, and you send them to rehab, and they will eventually get well, maybe. But if you send them home, they're going to sit there, and they're not going to do anything, and the family isn't going to want to make them do anything, and then they're never going to get out of the wheelchair again. And that's the truth. I mean, that's what happens. But they said, oh, no, that won't happen with her. You know, we'll make sure it doesn't happen. So I got to come home. And once again, here are my kids and grandkids taking care of me again. So I tell you, I'm a very, 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 very lucky girl. I don't know if anybody now would like to share any story right now, or if you want to just share it with each other. Does anybody have a Jim story? Oh, wait, I have one I have to read you.
Couldn't pick horses.
What?
He couldn't pick horses.
He couldn't pick horses. That's true. He couldn't pick horses. He tried. He wasn't in it. You got one?
It's just a quick one. He really couldn't win a race, but he could really win the hearts of the crowd.